The opinions expressed in this show do not necessarily reflect the views of Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege, and we're so glad you joined us today because we have another great episode coming your way. So before we get to that, and before I introduce my guest, I would like to ask you to like and follow my Instagram, Facebook, and X account, where you can find all the latest information about the show, about my guests, and of course my on-air wardrobe, which is courtesy of my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, their thrift store located on North Willow. And we are getting closer to them moving to their new location, so we'll have more about that for you. But anyway, you can find the wardrobe, everything about it, posted on my pages and which pieces are available to you. So we'd really appreciate it if you support them, because the net proceeds from the store go to support their mission, in part, of helping survivors of domestic violence and their children with safe spaces and empowering services. And they've been doing that for 4 decades, and they've been doing a great job. So we want you to support them. So I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this because, as you know, in previous seasons, I've been featuring the Port of Tampa Bay. And why? Because the port is a huge economic generator for this region. It's very important to everything that we do. And so we started off with interviewing Judy Paradis, who was the co-director of the Maritime Academy at Jefferson High School. So we started there because that's where a maritime career starts. Then we went to the Propeller Club here in Tampa to talk to Colt McKay about what the Propeller Club does. And now I'm so excited because, and I don't want to mess this up, so I'm putting on my glasses. I have Kelly Hendry in the chair today, Kelly is the president, first of all, of Hendry Marine. She is the current president of the Propeller Club of Tampa, and she's on the executive board of the Maritime Scholarship Foundation, which is going to be the primary focus of our talk today. So we want to welcome Kelly to Connecting with Kim.
Good morning. It's excellent to be here.
Oh, we're so pleased to have you. We've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
So we start out allowing our guests to take a few minutes to share their life journey, anything they feel comfortable with, and we just kind of take it from there and see where it goes. So
I'm a Tampa native, rare these days.
Yes.
But definitely a Tampa native. I grew up in South Tampa. I went to South Tampa schools. My family's business, which at the time was a dredging company, was located just south of Gandy, where the West Shore Marina District is, all those beautiful condos. Mm-hmm. Used to be a shipyard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I grew up, although I was never involved in the business per se. Graduated from the Academy of the Holy Names, beautiful legacy, great school, great memories, great friends. Went to the University of Florida, double majored in economics and finance, worked in business and industry for a while. The highlight was I got to work for Merrill Lynch Capital Markets in New York on their trading desk for a while in European money market sales and trading. That was a great experience. In fact, I would encourage any young person in Tampa to try and pursue a job in a big city for a little while. You grow up really fast and it's great.
Right.
But speaking of growing up, I fell in love with my college boyfriend and ended up moving back to Florida when I was 30 and settling in actually South Florida, got married, raised a couple of children. And had a need for more work-life balance, more child-focused things. So when I was 40-ish, I went back to school, got a master's in education, and taught second grade for 12 years at a private school in South Florida. You learn a lot by teaching. I learn as much as the children, sometimes even more. So I did that for a while, and that was when I was doing that when we unfortunately lost my father in 2016. And that was, at that time, the persons who were managing his estate shared with me that was his desire for me to be the legacy family executive in the ship repair business. And that's what brought me here in 2017. And it's been a great journey, and I'm really excited to be here.
So you are running your family's business now. Did your dad start this business?
Well, actually, my grandfather started it in 1926. That's something a lot of people don't know.
Oh, that's...
all those beautiful condos there on Water Street.
That you can see from Gandy Bridge, right? Can you see from that area from Gandy Bridge? I'm trying to remember where you can see it.
You can see the West Shore Marina District from there.
Right.
I'm talking about down by Amalie Arena.
Oh, okay.
Water Street.
Right.
Used to be Tampa's industrial waterfront.
Right.
And that was where my grandfather, Captain F.M. Hendry, started Hendry Corporation. It wasn't called that at the time, but that's where he started it. And he was one of the inaugural port commissioners in the 1940s. And he grew it into one of the premier dredging businesses in the southeastern U.S.
Wow.
My father took over the business in 1968 when my grandfather passed away. My father is a civil engineer, graduated from Georgia Tech. He also had an MBA. He was a really shrewd businessman with an eye for investment. In 1988, he had the opportunity to acquire the shipyard, which now operates as Gulf Marine, our primary operating subsidiary. It was called Gulf Tampa Dry Dock. So we have had that presence on the waterfront on the Ybor Channel since 1988, operating as Gulf Marine. Hendry Marine has two operating subsidiaries, Gulf Marine Repair, which is a ship repair facility, and Anchor Sandblasting and Coatings, which specializes in the paint and protection of ocean-going vessels. So it's quite a facility.
Fantastic. Now, we just had, we're filming this after we just had Hurricane Helene. So explain to me, how did your operations come through that? Because we had record storm surge.
Yes. Well, first of all, we did not have any damage to our primary assets, to the dry docks, to any of the customers' vessels, the cranes, any of the high dollar value investment, the bulkheads, the seawalls, everything is fine. Good. We did have roughly 4 feet of storm surge in the shipyard pretty much everywhere. However, none of it got into the buildings, and we actually, I'm happy to say, we're back up and operating at 100% right now.
Oh, congratulations. I'm happy for you.
We're very blessed to have that.
You are very blessed because, I mean, there's only been one other storm prior to this that had 11 foot of storm surge in 1921. And this was the second highest storm surge we've ever experienced in Tampa. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you.
Heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking. I know we all know people that are suffering.
Absolutely.
So, given your background, which very interesting background, I mean, quite a difference in.
It's very atypical.
You know,
in the industry.
And I used to be a tutor at the parish school for reading, so I understand about the teaching aspect. So what was your biggest surprise when you came into the family business?
Just that I don't know whether I should be brutally honest or not, but the biggest surprise, I guess, was that there was such a commitment to doing things the old way. And so over a process of 3 or 4 years, my stepbrother and I, Mike Hendry and I, were both involved in the business from 2017. We had to go through a process of gradual introduction to change. Okay. Because you cannot force change on people all at once. We knew there were a lot of things that needed to be modernized. So step by step, little by little, in a process that made sense at the time and enrolling people in it, we've been able to implement a lot of really positive changes that have had us over the last 2 years or so have record revenues, record profits, and right now we have excellent leadership in both operating companies. So that's also a blessing.
Oh, yes. I'm so happy for you. Because sometimes when, with your background, and all of a sudden you come into managing the family business, which is something you obviously did not train your whole life for.
Absolutely not.
And now all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm going to be running the family business. There's got to be some challenges and some surprises, and I think some joys too, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So our company has always been employee focused, and right from the time of my grandfather, it's been really important to the family to have a nice place for employees to work, and that is something that makes us kind of unique, and a legacy that's very important to us to carry on. So just wonderful, wonderful people in our workforce.
Oh,
Huge hearts, wonderful people.
I'm happy to hear that. So now you become involved in the Propeller Club of Tampa, and people should understand Propeller Clubs exist all over the U.S.
Correct. All over the world.
All over the world, actually. They're international.
Yes.
And now you're part of the executive board of the
Correct.
Maritime Scholarship Foundation. So
Correct.
let's help everybody out there understand, first, what is the Maritime Scholarship Foundation all about?
The Maritime Scholarship Foundation supports students local to the Tampa Bay area who desire to attend one of our country's maritime colleges. They're 4-year institutions. The roster of them is, there's one in New York, there's one in Massachusetts, one in Maine, one on the Great Lakes, one in California. I feel like I'm forgetting one. I'm sorry, but so there's only a few of them. And obviously they're out of state. Obviously, they carry a tuition burden that can be $50,000 a year. It's daunting.
It's daunting.
It's daunting so the Scholarship Foundation exists to take some of that burden off of students. And we will cover anywhere from about 20% to 25% of the annual cost of attending one of these private maritime colleges. So it's a great resource.
That is a tremendous amount of help that you're giving. So let me understand something. So are these students that are receiving these scholarships, are they part of the Jefferson High Maritime Academy, or do they come from other places?
At the beginning, the intention was to support the Jefferson students, and we still do. In the matrix of selection, we do give a higher weight to Jefferson students. However, we have students from all different high schools that have taken advantage of our scholarship program. Again, the requirement is that you attend one of the maritime colleges or the United States Merchant Marine Academy, which is the Tier 1 pinnacle of maritime education. We actually have one young lady that we're supporting there. She's in her 2nd year. She just had the grit and the academic chops to be able to handle it. So I was able to help her get a congressional appointment and get into the Merchant Marine Academy.
Oh, congratulations for both of you, because I know that's
amazing young lady.
Yeah. My mom's been involved in that in the past, of getting helping people get selected and to attend the various service academies.
Yes.
No matter what part of the service it was.
Yes.
And so I know that it's a tough process.
It is, and I'm so proud of her, and she's just doing great.
So when you recruit students, or let me understand something. So they come to you and say, listen, I want a career in the maritime, but I need help going to school. Or do you identify them and say, oh, we have this certain need for this kind of career in maritime? Explain to me how that works a little bit.
Generally, the students will come to us. Generally, they will find the Scholarship Foundation through a Google search if they don't attend Jefferson. As far as the students that are part of the Jefferson Maritime Program, we immerse them in who we are and what we do from the time they're freshmen. Anytime we get their ear, we want to find those students that are interested in pursuing it through. And so the Jefferson High Maritime Academy is the place where we primarily get our students. And there's a lot of involvement from businesses in the maritime industry going in there and talking to the students. Students have formal and informal opportunities for learning, and that usually spurs the interest into pursuing the maritime college.
If you're just joining me now on Connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is Kelly Hendry, who is the president of Hendry Marine here in Tampa, and also the president of the Propeller Club of Tampa, and also on the executive board of the Maritime Scholarship Foundation, which is what we are talking about primarily right now, is understanding how we recruit folks for rewarding, I must say rewarding, from both a careers perspective and a financial perspective in the maritime industry. And so you get the students, they go through some kind of vetting process, I imagine, and then you award them the scholarship, and then they start attending one of these many private maritime or even the Merchant Marine Academy. And what happens after that? You monitor them all 4 years, because it's a 4-year education. You monitor them all 4 years, and then tell me what happens during that time.
Correct. It is not an automatic renewal. Students have to apply for renewal. Most of the time it's granted,
Yep.
as long as they're making satisfactory academic progress. But we stay in touch with them. We get in touch, we know their parents. We have a relationship with the families. It's a lot of fun getting to know both the families and the students.
Yeah.
We usually meet them at 22nd Street Coffee over by the port, just because it's a great place to meet people in a relaxed setting. We have stayed close to students that have had challenges, and most of them are able to make it through and graduate. And so it's a relationship that's ongoing. And we even have students that have graduated. Well, if you think about it, we had our first students graduate from the Maritime Academies, because this only started in 2015. So we had our first graduates in 2019, so they've been in the business for like 4 or 5 years now. One of them sails for Crowley. I don't know if you're familiar with Crowley Maritime, but they're a very large Florida-based owner of marine assets and sailing companies. So she sails for them, but she also is involved with helping us get the word out. She's working on getting Crowley involved in workforce development with kids in Tampa. And so, Crowley is a company that also wants to get the message out about how wonderful a career in maritime is. We want to recruit the very best talent.
Absolutely. And when we say maritime, so give our watchers and listeners an idea of what kind of careers are we talking about that we're covering at these 4-year institutions?
Yes, excellent. So there are 2 primary career paths that one may pursue when graduating from a maritime college.
Okay.
One is what we call the deck licensing program, and the other is an engineering licensing program. So the engineering program has all of the same classes you would take in engineering, along with specializations having to do with vessel propulsion, navigation, etc. So everything, if you think about everything that runs a ship and everything that could go wrong on that ship, if you have an engineering license, you're going to be fixing it and making sure it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So that's the engineering license side.
Okay.
The deck license side is the individuals that run the ship. They do the watches on the ship. They're the ones you see in the bridge with all the equipment. They have evening watches. They're up all night. It's very challenging. Actually, both career tracks are a little challenging at the beginning, because you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
So those are the 2 licensing programs, and then a third option is what's called marine trade and transportation, and that's someone who's on the business side of maritime.
Okay, so they're primarily in the port or somewhere, and they're managing what's going on on all these ships.
Correct.
So tell me which one of those licensing leads to being the captain or the pilot or whatever it is on the ship.
Gosh, well, generally it's someone who started as a deck license, although it could come from engineering, because the engineering folks, they tend to know the navigation side as well. But it is primarily, when you see the top brass on a ship, they've come through a deck licensing program.
Yeah,
many grades of that, and there's an exam when these students graduate from these colleges. They have to sit for a licensing exam, and every time you move up a level, you have to sit for another licensing exam. There's also a requirement for sea time to move up in grades of your license.
So you have to actually spend time on a ship,
Absolutely.
and it actually has to be out to sea, and so on and so forth, right?
Whether you are in a deck licensing program or an engineering license program, you must spend time at sea. That's part of the requirement.
Okay.
International trade and transportation, not so much. It's an option, but it's not a requirement like for the other programs.
I had an opportunity in the past. My girlfriend was seeing the owner and president of Great Lakes Shipping.
Really?
And so he offered us an opportunity to sail from Toronto on one of his working ships through the Great Lakes and all the locks and whatnot to Montreal. And of course he had offices in both locations, and we did that. So my husband and I and my girlfriend and this gentleman sailed on one of his working ships.
Wow.
We ate with the crew. We slept in, they were nice quarters, but they weren't, any luxury.
No.
And we sailed from Toronto to Montreal on this working ship and got to go through all the different lock systems that exist on the Great Lakes.
Right.
And St. Lawrence Seaway.
Right.
And it was the most fabulous experience I think I've ever had. I had a real, and you'd be going through the locks at different times of the day and night, right? So if you wanted to see how it worked, you'd get up at whatever time it was, and be out there with the crew. It was really a wonderful experience.
Well, we have 2 students right now at Great Lakes Maritime. One's graduating this year, and the other is a sophomore. And one of the reasons there's an academy there is because the navigational aspects of that region are so specialized.
They are.
And the students are working on ships that sail in that area.
My late husband and I had a home on Lake Michigan for 30-something years, and right on the shore. And so we're very familiar with the Great Lakes, and we know from living there how treacherous the Great Lakes can be.
Oh yes.
And if you don't know what you're doing they've taken down big barges and big ships on the Great Lakes. And of course, when from our home and on our beach, we could see the ships sailing up and down the lake all the time.
Oh, wow.
So it was really we have a great appreciation for that, and realize how important that shipping is. So you started in 2015. You graduated your first people in 2019, and then of course COVID happened. So tell me what happened during COVID.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to understand that a little bit. What changed since COVID?
Well, so COVID, most of the students stayed where they were. They were just isolated.
Yeah.
We stayed in touch with them. We kept close to them. We stayed in contact with them. We gave them emotional support.
Right.
We did what we could to help them through that period.
Right.
It was hard.
Yeah. So let me understand, if they were out doing their sea time.
I don't think they did.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
I don't think they did that year.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure 2020 they did not do their they call them teaching ships, I think, or training ships. I'm pretty sure they didn't do that in 2020. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I don't
okay.
think
I wasn't trying to ask any trick questions because we don't do that.
It was an isolating experience,
Yeah.
especially for the students that were there on campus.
Yeah.
They were still taking classes online, but they were isolated to their rooms, and it was very difficult.
But fortunately, we're through that now.
Yes.
So how long have you personally been involved with the Maritime Scholarship Foundation?
2019, they asked me to be part of the selection committee.
Okay.
The committee that reviews the applications. Because of my education background,
Right.
and because I was part of the education committee at the Propeller Club, and I was very active. So that's how it started, and then that evolved into being asked to be part of the board. That was, I want to say that was like 2021, and then they tapped me to be treasurer at some point in 2022. So that was the evolution. Usually we'll bring people first onto the selection committee and let them get a flavor for it, and then those that are active and interested and when we have a seat open, they'll move on to the board.
So how many people serve on the selection committee? Because I didn't know about that, so I'm just going to, is it like...
It's maybe 6
okay.
or so.
And how many students are you evaluating?
Usually less than 10.
Okay.
Let me grab my notes right
Yeah,
here. and I'll
feel
tell
free
you.
to refer. I don't,
So right now we have 9 students, and we awarded $68,000 in scholarships this year. We have a budget of $80,000, so we could award a couple more. Generally, a student will not apply unless they're fairly well qualified academically. They have to have already gotten into the college before they can apply for a maritime scholarship.
Oh, okay. And is there a certain grade point average they have to have?
We like for them to maintain a certain grade point average, but we have made concessions to that and renewed scholarships for students where maybe their grades weren't that robust, if they have the heart and they really want to continue.
Yeah,
So,
they want a career in maritime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because again, it's not just classroom. They get up and they march. They have regiments. They
Right.
wear uniforms.
Right.
It's even in the state maritime
Right.
academies. Now, certainly at the Merchant Marine Academy, Kings Point, that's where you have the most rigor in your marching and your regiment and so on.
Right.
But they still have that at these state maritime academies. That takes some getting used to.
I bet.
Yes.
Especially if you don't come from that kind of background, right?
Yes, and this one student that we support at Texas A&M, after his first year, he was telling us the experience he liked the most was he was on the training ship and they got some kind of a leak and they were down there with a bucket brigade and trying to keep the water out of the electric panels, and they were all joking with each other and laughing, and he was like, that was my favorite experience of the whole year. So you never know what you're going to run up against, but he's going to be graduating soon, and it all just rolls into a really great career.
So let me understand, we only have a few minutes left, so I
Okay.
know that you want to make an appeal, but let me just understand, where does the funding for the scholarships come from?
We are blessed to be the beneficiaries of Port Tampa Bay Charities.
Okay.
And there are 3 events that support us and our partner charity. They are the Anchor Ball, which is a gala in December, always a lot of fun, glitz, glam, good time. There is a golf tournament, and there is a fishing tournament, which is actually the next thing that's coming up. It's called Bay Slam. So there are people are registering for that already. That's in November.
Is there any kind of reciprocal or a partnership with the Propeller Club that helps the Maritime Scholarship Foundation? I was just curious.
Well, the Propeller Club donates direct,
Okay.
and also we donate a portion of the proceeds of our events a couple of times a year to the Scholarship Foundation.
Super.
Also, when the young lady that's at the Merchant Marine Academy, the first year it was the Propeller Club that funded her, and then her second year we funded her.
Okay.
So we do share that. We do share the funding responsibility for the students. That's a different case, because the Merchant Marine Academy, you do not have tuition, but you do have a lot of first year expenses.
Right.
So they covered her first year expenses, or half of them.
So we only have like less than a minute left. So I
Okay.
want you to, I know that you wanted to say something directly. So please look into your camera and make your appeal.
A career in the maritime industry is a great way to get a really high-paying job and never have the same thing happen to you every day. And I would encourage any students who are interested in finding out more about it to look at our website, which is Tampa Bay Maritime Scholarship Foundation. That's a lot. tbmsf.org to find out more about the maritime industry, or contact me at the Propeller Club, and I can tell you a lot more about it personally.
Thank you. Thank you for being my guest today, Kelly, on Connecting with Kim. Really appreciate you coming on to talk to us about the Maritime Scholarship Foundation. We love Port Tampa Bay and
Yes.
realize how important it is to our overall health of our entire Tampa Bay area.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you. So that's all we have time for today. In case you're just joining us, my guest, so now you have to go back and watch the whole show, is Kelly Hendry she's the president of Hendry Marine, which is a family company. She's also the president of the Propeller Club of Tampa and on the executive board of the Maritime Scholarship Foundation. So that's what we've been talking about today, rewarding careers in the maritime industry. So we want to thank you for joining us today on Connecting with Kim. We want you to like and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and X pages, where you can find out all the information about the show, the guests, broadcast schedule, and of course my on-air wardrobe supplied by the Spring of Tampa Bay. We're so grateful to them. They provide safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. They've been doing it for more than 4 decades. Their thrift store on North Willow, the net proceeds help fund that mission. So thanks for joining us. Come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim.